Hey friends, coming to you from vacation. This segment of the video is made while I was on vacation. I wanted to put an introductory comment about this video. First of all, it's long. Removing wallpaper is an animal unto itself. There's easy, there's intermediary, and then there's the very difficult. This video is going to get tens of thousands of views over the course of the years. And so I want to explain to those of you who come to this video, open it up and start skipping around because of its length. That's fine, obviously, if you want to do that. But if you're going to ask me questions that are answered in this video, I must tell you, I won't be able to get to those questions because I anticipate 5 basic questions to be asked over and over again, and it's all in the video. I beg you to watch the video before you ask questions, because I just can't take the time that I anticipate that it will take to address the same thing over and over again. The video is long necessarily. It's not that I want to hear myself speak. Taking down wallpaper requires an effort, and you have to get it down. That's the rule of thumb. Get the wallpaper down. But if it doesn't come down, there's an alternative than despair. You can leave it up. And that's what this video is about. Leaving the wallpaper on the wall because of the time and the problems that it caused removing it. Think about it. If you're taking the wallpaper down and you're gouging the walls 10 times every square yard, you're going to see that you're facing the same problem, the same repairs, by leaving it up and fixing those gouges, then taking it down. And so there comes a point at which one decides, I'm going to leave up this wallpaper. This video will show you when you can leave the wallpaper up, which wallpapers cannot be left up, and how to proceed when you leave the wallpaper up with confidence. Don't panic if you're leaving the wallpaper up and say, oh, is it going to come down? Is this a quick fix? No, this is a permanent fix to a real problem many people are facing in America today, because they're purchasing homes that were wallpapered completely and now they have to take it down. And grandma didn't have somebody put it up who knew what he was doing. And so the ever-present question is always, my wallpaper isn't coming down. I don't know what they used. They probably didn't use anything. In this video, you're going to see that they went right over drywall. If you have that situation, you need to watch this video, okay? Thanks for watching the video. Please be patient. I suggest that if you're taking on a job in a multi-room home where multiple rooms have to be de-wallpapered, watch the entire thing in segments. Watch a little today, a little tomorrow. Please, don't jump around the video, because all of the questions are answered that could possibly come to your mind. Thanks for watching. Hey friends, thanks for watching my channel and coming back for another video. Before we start, let me recommend that if you need wallpaper, go to www.wallpaperboulevard.com and see the wide selection they have there for you. I highly recommend them. If you use my hashtag Spencer Colgan is wallpaper, they will in turn give you a 10% discount at checkout. That's right, 10% no matter how much you order. So that's www.wallpaperboulevard.com. Check them out, order your wallpaper, and enjoy this video. This is Spencer Colgan from Spencer Colgan is Wallpaper. Today we're removing wallpaper. This has been up since the 80s. It's curling. The seams are busting. And we're going to try to get this down. quickly and efficiently. Let's do it. I began the project with the intention of getting the wallpaper off of the wall within a reasonable amount of time. I began my conventional approach: water, water, and more water, and lots of patience. Well, this project proved to be different. The gentleman for whom I was working admitted to me, "Spencer, the wallpaper was put over the walls without proper preparation." But I still thought I could get this down. It wasn't until about 2 hours had passed and I didn't have even half of this wall down that I decided we cannot get this wallpaper off of the wall efficiently. If it took me 4 days to remove this wallpaper, let's just say it took 4 days, is that worth your time? It's certainly not worth my time, and it's not worth the gentleman's money either. There comes a point where you must employ a different approach. Now, I must tell you, the rule of thumb is and must be remove the wallpaper. That is the rule of thumb. Because I don't want anyone extracting from this video that you don't have to try to get the wallpaper down. You can just go over it. This video attempts to demonstrate to the do-it-yourselfer that you must employ every effort to get this wallpaper off. Because here's why. Since I'm not in your home, I can't tell you if what I'm going to do in this video is going to work for you. Because you may cause yourself a different problem. For example, if you try to go over flocked wallpaper, you're going to learn that it doesn't work for you. If you try to go over grass cloth wallpaper, you're going to learn that you should have taken it down. If you go over string wallpaper, you will regret not having taken it down. If you go over vinyl wallpaper, you will regret not taking it down. This video is for wallpaper, and I do emphasize the word paper. That is, wall coverings that are mostly composed of paper that is adhering to your wall, if not perfectly, with minimal blisters that get scraped out and can be gone over with an oil or alcohol primer and then joint compounded over. That's what this video is about. It allows you to come up with an alternative if your paper doesn't come down. If you were to go over vinyl and say, I don't have to get this down, you're going to find out that your vinyl will continue to expand on the wall because of heat and then constrict on the wall because of cold air. And that will result in cracking of the joint compound that I apply in this video. You see what I'm ripping off there? That's paper. That's paper. And there's paper underneath. What is your sheetrock? Your sheetrock is paper. So don't be surprised that you can leave paper on top of your wallpapered sheetrock. So let's get that out of our heads. Does this guy know what he's talking about? Can this be done? Yes, it can be done. And if you're in doubt as to whether or not you can go over your wallpaper, consult a professional. And so you have a question, but Spencer, I have multiple layers of wallpaper on my wall. Can I go over it? My question to you is, how do you know that you have multiple layers of wallpaper? A lot of good people tell me things that aren't true, and they mean well. I was talking to a woman recently who said, I want you to hang the wallpaper on my wall. I said, is there texture? She said, no texture at all. Another woman told me, I have texture on these walls. Each was wrong. The woman who swore she had no texture had texture that could cut a hole in your forehead if you rubbed your head on the wall. It was that thick and bumpy. She said, no, there's no texture. The woman who said she had texture, the walls were almost what was called a level 5 finish. There was no texture at all. So sometimes people don't know, and they think they know. And that's fine. That's fine. It happens. So my question is first, how do you know you have multiple layers? You may be thinking you do. The rule of thumb is this. If it is sound, if you press on the wall and it's hard, just like your wall is, you're good to go. If you feel a cushion, you're going to have a problem. Joint compound doesn't do well sitting on a bed of softness. It must be sound structurally in order to put a hard layer of joint compound on, which is going to serve as the outermost skin of your wall to give you the beauty of flatness over which you're going to either paint or re-wallpaper. Pulling it out distresses the material and causes it to tear. There's less stress on the material when you're pulling it against itself. If you just think about it, you'll understand why. The wallpaper is so cheap. The cheaper the wallpaper, the thinner the wallpaper, the more difficult it is, the more frustrating it is to remove it, because if you don't persevere, it comes down to small strips. See how I made my lines there? See how not only does the wallpaper come off, but the backing with it. You try everything, This way you can be successful at it. I'm trying to show you the increment, the success increments I'm having. As time is going forward in this video, you can see how more easily it's coming down. That's all I'm trying to show you is, if you persevere, you'll look at this. You'll do fine. For those of my viewers who are with me throughout the last several years, you've heard this story. I had a woman call me a couple of years ago and asked me, do you remove wallpaper? And I said, yes, I do. And she said, well, do you remove wallpaper if the wall have holes in it? I said, what are you talking about? She said, well, my husband trying to remove the wallpaper and now we got a bunch of holes. So I said, well, can you show me a picture? She said, it's just a wall with a bunch of holes in it. So I said, what kind of holes? She said, like, he tried to remove it with a tool. So I said, okay. What did he use? I don't like using tools. That's why it damages the walls. No, she said, he got frustrated and he used one of those things that you bang in screws with. I said, now, you don't bang in screws. What are you talking about? She said, you know that thing? It got like a couple of fingers on the back of it. And I said, actually, I don't. Can we FaceTime? I can't FaceTime. So I realized she was describing what sounded like a hammer. I said, you're not talking about a hammer. She goes, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. The back of it, the thing with the claws. I said, so why are you calling me? She said, I want a price. I said, you want me to come to your house? When a guy gets angry or frustrated, resorts to the use of a hammer? No way. Click. I don't like turning down customers. But you know what? I blocked her. And then about 4 hours later, the husband called me. And I hate to admit this, but I told him I just retired from removing wallpaper. And I suggested some of my colleagues, whom I really don't like, I suggested them. Please don't tell anybody that. That's just between me and my viewers. Thank you. It's a lot easier to remove when you're peeling it against itself. It's actually peeling it rather than... Oh man, look at this. See, we didn't use any tools. You know what that is. Look, this surface was not prepared. It was at this point I began thinking about stopping the removal process and starting to consider going over the wallpaper. It became clear to me as time progressed that it was taking too long to get the wallpaper off. Plan B went into effect shortly hereafter. Time to resort to a plastic tool. This is wallpaper. How hard could it be? Look at this. See the tape come off? You know, if you're considering wallpaper, consider an acrylic primer. Roman company makes an acrylic primer. Why acrylic? It's hard. This wouldn't happen if you had a hard primer on this. Look at this. And why do you want a hard primer? What's the difference of painting over a primer and wallpapering over a primer? What's the difference? Anybody? The difference is wallpaper puts a bed of liquid over your wall that will be wet for hours. What happens to something when a bed of water is on it for hours? What happens? Well, nothing if it's plastic, nothing if it's vinyl, but if it's paint, indoor paint, what happens is that the pores of the paint give way to the penetrating liquid. Gives way. And it allows saturation to begin. And that is the difference between putting paint on a wall that dries in a half an hour and putting wallpaper on a wall that dries several hours later. And so with an acrylic paint, you're getting protection from the liquid in the wallpaper. And that's the difference. And acrylic wouldn't allow that to happen. It's ridiculous. This is a metal taping knife. Don't use this. It doesn't perform any better than the plastic one. And the plastic one will give you a lot less of this.
Babe, this guy, I don't know if he knows what he's doing. All he needed was a steamer, babe. That's all this guy needed. And he loves to hear himself talk, too. I'm gonna write a comment. Less talk and more work.
Okay, I always get that guy on my channel telling me how I should be using a steamer. Well, if that's what you're saying, and it's never a woman, it's always a guy, I will tell you politely, you are an ignoramus, and you're wrong. You're wrong. A steamer, first of all, I got a steamer. You know where it is? When I retire, I'm gonna pull it out of my shed and try to get some money for it as a relic. I'm gonna sell it as a relic, like historical, you know, so that, you know how people buy stuff and they just, for conversation, like a rotary phone? Like, ha, look at what people used to use, ha, you know? So I'm hoping that one day it's worth something. It's certainly not worth anything to me on the job. Think about it. You can only wet a square foot at a time. And how long you gotta hold it there? So I don't use a steamer.
And the guy who's watching my channel, telling everybody, what's wrong with this guy? By the way, you sound like Christopher Walken.
Okay. This is a paint edger, by the way, from Harbor Freight. If you don't have a Harbor Freight near you, perhaps you can go on Amazon. Try to get it there. Because the wall was not primed with a quality primer, this wall's gonna need a skim coat. But it's very important. I know the people watching this are watching it for wallpaper removal, but if you're in the business of painting, even if you're not removing wallpaper, put a quality sealer primer on your walls. You know, especially if you're doing brand new sheetrock, get a quality primer on there. I would do an acrylic. It's hard. It'll be on there for 100 years, right? And it's a foundation. It's a hard surface. Why put a cheap primer on your walls? Okay, after removing the wallpaper behind me, this wall took, I'm going to say, I lost count, between 2 and 3 hours. Stop. We're going to stop removing the wallpaper. That's right. What kind of wallpaper is this? It's a thin, cheap vinyl composite. Do you have 20 hours to remove this? I don't. And most people don't have the money to pay a professional 20 hours, 25 hours to remove this. This becomes cost prohibitive. We're going to jump into Plan B. Based on the time I spent on this and the detriment that I risk to these cabinets and the floor and the grout, I quit. Let's get into Plan B. Put down your scrapers. You've done enough. If you're at that point where you're taking up the wall anyway, it's time to think about the value of your time, your other resources, and the damage being caused. We're going over this. We're leaving it up. And when we find the guy who put it up, let's go to Plan B. This segment of the video is being made just around noontime during this wallpaper removal. So I want to say that if you have wallpaper and you're looking to install new, rule of thumb, remove the wallpaper. You got to get it down. Especially if it's a wallpaper that'll come down easily, fairly easily, with minimal ease. Got to get it down. Here's why. It's going to pose a problem when you put your new wallpaper up, if you want to go over it. But if you have wallpaper that's not coming down, there comes a time at which you have to decide, is it worth it? My time? Is it worth the risk I place my other property in the kitchen or living room or whatever you're doing? At some point, that answer becomes no, it is not worth it. Then and only then must you come to the conclusion that the wallpaper must stay up and that you must go over it. And I'm going to show you how to do it in this video. So in order to proceed with step B, we have to remove the loose stuff, okay? Because if you don't, you will find that the binding agent that we're going to be putting on
won't stick to the wall. Here's your wall. This is your substrate. When it sounds like that, that's your substrate. This is peeling paint. That's not your substrate. This is unsound. This must come off. And so you just gently shave it off. Okay? Has to come off though. Anything loose. And if you think about it, it makes sense. So far, so good. Don't worry about that. When it's ripped like that, you can leave that because when you see, it just never stops. See that? So you can leave it like this. Just pull it toward the center. Don't keep pulling it this way. Pull it towards this way so it stops. And leave it alone. Because it'll keep going. And we gotta wait till it dries. If you remove the wallpaper and you wet it down, your wall is wet. Gotta wait till it dries. Put the air conditioner down low, get a fan going, work on another part of the room. You can leave that too. That's a never-ending issue. So you just let that dry, and then you go right over it. Okay?
You're looking at two products from Kills. The one on the left is original oil-based primer from Kills. The one on the right is Kills Mold and Mildew interior and exterior product. Now, I tried both, knowing that one would be successful because I have a previous video on it. But I wanted to show you what a failure the one on the right was, so I did a separate video on it. No need to cover that information again on this video. What I wanted my viewers to know is that this disaster, this paper disaster, needs to be completely tied down to the wall. And when I say tied down, it's not an exaggeration. Figure it like this if you've never used this product before, right in front of you, Kills. It literally locks all of the torn paper and all of the loose bits and pieces down to the wall, so that when it dries, all you have to do to get the loose particles off is simply scrape it, and then you're ready to skim coat. Remember, you can't just start putting plaster on top of it after you put the Kills Original. No, that only gives you the basis over which you can now make your walls beautiful by the process called skim coat. Please see Spencer Colgan, How to Skim Coat on YouTube in order to get numerous videos on how to go about doing this. But I'm going to show you here how I did it to this wall. The product I highly recommend in this video is right here, Kills Original. You go over all of the mess, the wallpaper, the backing with this product. Wait until it dries. Scrape off the rough particles that result. And then your walls are locked down and the wallpaper becomes one with the wall. That's right. You must put this on and let it dry. Feel free to put a second coat. You want perfection? Put a second coat of Kills Original. Let it dry, and now you start from scratch by building up your wall with a layer of skim coat, then a second layer of skim coat, and then a third, and you will have flat, perfect walls. Trust me when I tell you.
I had some mold over here, and I sprayed it with mold armor. So we're going to see how this does. We're going to let that dry. I'm applying it generously. I want to show you how generous to yourself you can be with putting this oil over this wallpaper. Do you see me going crazy pulling bits and pieces off? No. And if you're gonna go this route, I suggest that you don't go crazy anymore after you've made this decision, because you have enough work ahead of you as it is. Here's what you're doing. You're putting a heavy-duty layer of paint over this. You're sealing this down. And after this oil dries, then the next day, tomorrow, you go up to it and you knock off what's ever loose. The rest of it that's attached to the wall is going to stay attached. Why go crazy pulling it off when you only have to pull off a little of it and not all of it? Okay, let's go right over our wallpaper. Be generous with your application. Don't skimp on the primer. Put it on there. You're looking to make this wallpaper part of the wall. Be generous. Bury it. Give it flowers. Let's be done with this wallpaper. Okay, I'm going to get the rest of it with a brush. I just want to show you what to expect on this application. Don't expect perfection. Don't worry about this. It's good. Get it on both sides. Here's why. You want to keep the root of it down. That will come off tomorrow. This is a thick, syrupy, sticky primer. So, you see where it's lifting up here? Good. Get your primer under it, push it over. What's ever remaining loose will be torn off tomorrow. Look at that. Do you see our wallpaper bubbling? Blistering? No, you don't. How long are you going to give your wallpaper?
I want to interject with a comment at this time in the video to all of you do-it-yourselfers with great intentions of taking your wallpaper down, going over it like I'm instructing you to, and doing my procedure here. Please understand that this applies for most wallpaper out there. But if you have one of the wallpapers I'm about to mention, you must take it down. Vinyl wallpaper, grass cloth wallpaper, flocked wallpaper, string wallpaper, or any of the natural wallpapers, such as hyacinth. What do I mean by natural? It's a natural product. Grass cloth is a natural product. Please just look it up on the internet. This procedure is for those products that will absorb the oil. I'm talking about mostly paper wall coverings here. Okay? Mostly paper. If you were to do this to vinyl, oh my goodness, you would, if you didn't follow this video and follow the instructions, you would call me screaming at me. please, I cannot emphasize to you enough. I know most people are not going to watch this entire video. This does not apply to many wallpapers out there, but most. And I just hope you good folks understand that if you have a question, please leave it in the bottom and I will try to get to it ASAP. But let me just tell you this. Just use your head. Can you put joint compound over your wallpaper? Could you do that? If you can go about this procedure. You can use this technique. Just scrape off the loose particles and go right over it with the primer.
That's right. Go right over it. Now, if you're the contractor and you're like, oh, Spencer, these people don't want to pay, you call me and I will buy you lunch. Walk off or away from that job. Walk away. Don't take every job that's out there. Don't do that to yourself. So I'm covering everything with 2 coats. You can see the oil kills, really takes over. I felt it when it was dry. Dried in about an hour and a half tops with the fan going. Let me tell you something. The walls already look a lot better. Especially here where we didn't start ripping at it. Of course, when you're using the oil-based primer, you want to have this around to clean up. I have this wash rag saturated with it. This way I can keep my brush clean as I go about applying this material. Of course, I've used my masking paper there. And this is very important because we're going to bring our taping, plastering tools right up against this, okay? So we want to make sure that our wallpaper is secure and will not come up, okay? Nice, good coat. Don't go too thin. Nice and thick. Get it in there, pull. Put it in there, pull. Nice thick coat, okay? Seal that up. Okay, let's do it again up here. I'm gonna put all of that paint right in there. How's that? Nice, right? And you see, I pushed it in there and I sealed that. I have repeatedly wet these areas with my garden sprayer. And so I've given this now 30 minutes of soaking over and over again, making sure that it's that wet. So I want to show you my success, if any. Still stubborn. Still stubborn. If there was more meat to this wallpaper, it would come down easier. But this is like your worst nightmare. Look at that. Not happy, you know? I like when it comes down. If I had my choice of going on vacation and removing wallpaper like really quick, sad to say, I'd rather remove the wallpaper. Just kidding. But you know that thrill you get when you go like, wow, big piece here. It's like what you accomplished, you know? Now, if you want to keep this piece going, pull it close to the wall. Pulling it out distresses the material and causes it to tear. There's less stress on the material when you're pulling it against itself.
On a previous video where I left the wallpaper on the wall and went over it, there were questions. Perhaps because it wasn't clear enough while I explained the process. Yes, the answer to any questions that may arise regarding what you can leave on the wall is this. Although I'm trying to remove all of this material, even that border, you see the border under my hand there? That's the backing to the border. When you come to the conclusion that your wallpaper is sound against the wall, there are no loose pieces, there are no air pockets, and all you have to do is survey the entire area, running one of your hands against the wall. If you don't hear air pockets, you'll know they're air pockets when you hear solid wall as you rub the wall with your hand, and then you hear a very high-pitched sound. That's an air pocket. You have to cut that out, because if you go over it with oil and then paint it or wallpaper it, you're going to have the same air pocket. You can go over everything you're looking at. This is a badly damaged wall. It needs a new skin. We're going to bury this, literally, like in a garbage dump in a landfill. You bury the garbage with dirt and new garbage. We're going to bury this problem under our Fix-It primer, our Cure-All Kills Original.
Okay, we are here at the job site at 7:45 in the morning, the day after we did all of the repairs. If you see the interim video that I did on this primer,
In the video description below, I will link the interim video that I did that shows a comparison between Kills Original and another product by Kills for mold and mildew. I just wanted to try the product. It completely failed, which is to simply say to my viewers, don't just grab any Kills. Kills is excelente, but you have to get the right one. They are superb, par excellence, and their products work very well for decorators like myself.
I did an interim video, that is a small video, while I was doing this job. And I just wanted to show people that in case they were inclined to go ahead and use something other than the one I'm suggesting, which is the oil, don't do it, okay? Now, let's go, now, and contrary to the failure of this, look at the success we have here. Look at this. Look at this. Look. We're ready to put compound on this. Okay? Now when you're going over wallpaper, take a look at where the wallpaper meets the crown. Okay? You want to seal that. That is a breach through which moisture and every other element, humid air, can penetrate. And so you want to get out your caulking. And we're going to caulk that, okay? So
we caulk the gaps, right? Because think about it. When you paint sheetrock, you seal the paper on the sheetrock, right? And you don't have any issues with blistering, etc., etc. So we're making a new skin on the wall. You want to seal anything that could get under the paper, right? The same way sheetrock is sealed. You know, when you drive a screw through sheetrock, you breach the paper ever so slightly. Well, if you go too far with your screw, you will have to do a repair on the sheetrock where you breach the paper, because you make it prone to blistering. And if you watch the Vancouver Carpenter, he covers that particular issue when you violate the sheetrock paper. So this is the same idea. We are sealing the paper so that nothing gets behind it. It's a pretty basic idea, but it's something you can easily overlook. Now, remember that the oil-based primer is not a cure-all to every issue. So now, where you have this, the day after, you want to go around and identify those areas that need to be repaired prior to installing or rendering the wall with joint compound, okay? Even though this seam is very stable, I don't like it standing up like that, so I'm going to cut it out, because it's going to require that I build it up with compound. I don't want to do that, so I'm going to try to shave this off. See that? Shave this down, okay? Look at that. I took that down. Believe me, you can't feel it. Okay. Doesn't hurt to throw some compound in there. I mean, some caulking. Okay, we're still examining. We're still working, going about. This is an important step, folks. If you're going to go over your wallpaper, please don't say, Spencer said you can do this. You have to go through these steps. A lot of people jumped from my videos because my videos tend to be long. They're not geared at trying to gain 1 million viewers. My videos are geared as tutorials. You gotta sit in the classroom to learn. They're not clickbait and money grabbers. A lot of videos online you'll see are designed to, you know, make the producer a lot of money because they're short, they're concise, but they skip a lot of detail. Be generous with it. Remember, you're sealing breaches. Make sure you seal them tight. This will not cover over torn dry wallpaper, so don't even try it. You just want to make it waterproof, so to speak. Okay? After you go around touching up all of the breaches, you're preparing to apply your joint compound. You don't want to have to come up here with a wet brush. Get yourself a can, okay? I highly recommend having this on your truck or at your disposal when you're doing this type of work. Bin is going to give you the same coverage over this mess, and watch this. Guess what the benefit is here? Dries right away. Okay? 15 minutes, you're ready to go. Okay? Now, all we want to do, you see what the oil did for us? It revealed this problem. And all we're going to do is cut it out. You know when you tell your kids, cut it out. So that's all we're going to do. We're going to cut it out.
don't have to worry about it then. Okay, now, if I weren't videoing, I would have my 5-in-1, and I would do with my 5-in-1 what I'm doing with this. Same effect. I like this better, you know why? It slices it off. The 5-in-1 might actually gouge the wall. Okay, so now we've revealed the little brown paper. My go-to is this, because it dries so quickly. Don't worry if you're not a good sprayer. If you get a drip mark, let it harden. Don't worry about it. You're going to skim coat over this. Nice thing about using this retractable blade gadget is, you see how this seam is standing proud? See that? Okay, watch this. You take all of the proud part off of it. Yeah, you gotta wear goggles, because this blade can snap right back in your face. Okay, but now look at it. No scraping otherwise, no nothing. That's ready to compound. Okay? And now we can see the whole project coming together. We've sealed all of the breaches, we've cut them out. We're allowing the alcohol to penetrate and dry. Look at that. We're almost ready to go over this with a new skin. But before we do that, we have to take care of yesterday's experiment. This is a disaster, okay? We've got to get rid of this. But that's what these videos are for, so that you avoid this mess and you let me test out the product for you. You don't want to take off too much. We're just looking to skin the top. Okay? Remember what we did with the razor blade above the cabinets. We're doing with a wider razor blade, so to speak. And the remedy is going to be the same. We're going to hit this with alcohol. Then we're going to plaster over it. Don't let this frighten you or intimidate you. A lot of you are calling professionals, and here's what's happening. You get some guy come to your house. He's late. He doesn't care. He knows you're desperate. He knows it. And then he gives you a price. And then he does a job subpar to that which you could have done for yourself. That's why I got in this business. I don't care if you've never fixed this. You can do it perfectly. It's going to take you 3 times the time it's going to take me, but you're going to do it perfectly. And you don't have to have some weirdo in your house arguing with his lover on the phone. You get to do it all by yourself. And once you're done, guess what? You're done. I called back my granite guy yesterday. he needs to come and fix something on the granite, for which he was paid very generously. He wouldn't pick up the call. So, he wasn't that smart. He forgot that sometimes people have more than one phone, and called him from another phone. He picked up before the phone stopped ringing on the first ring. I said, "You're not picking up my call." He goes, oh, I'm busy. I said, "Not too busy to pick up this stranger's call. When are you coming?" "I'll be there Thursday." And he said it like, I already knew that. I said, "Well, you never told me." So the moral of the story is, get a second phone. Okay. So how do you fix this? Well, in all reality, it'll keep going unless you do this. Now, the Vancouver carpenter doesn't like this. He says that you breached the sheetrock by doing this. And he's right. But he doesn't say you can't do it. He says he doesn't do it. But I'll tell you what. I've never had a problem either in my own home or people for whom I have worked. So I do it. Because this is one of those things that'll drive you nuts. Okay? So I do surgery. I do surgery. Because it could go on forever and ever and ever. So I do it. Okay? It's the only way I can ensure that it's going to stop. It's like, and I don't want to be insensitive, it's like removing cancer. You got to go around the thing to get it out. Did I ever tell you I had a helper who always said, "Oh," to everything I said? One day I realized he wasn't paying attention to me. He was just saying, "Oh." By the way, this is poorly prepared. That's drywall. It's very dusty. They didn't dust it off. They put the primer right over it. And that's why we have this issue. It's truly why we have the issue. So every time I'd say something, he'd say, "Oh, oh." I'd say, "Juan, you want to get coffee?" "Oh." I say, "Juan, are you listening? You want to get coffee?" Oh, okay. Like it was just a front to make me think he was listening. So one day, I said, "And this is how you do it, you know, and it really works." And he goes, "Oh." I said, "Yeah? You understand that?" He goes, "Yeah." I said, "Tell me what I just said." You know what he said? "Oh." He couldn't tell me. I said, "Don't stroke me, buddy. Not everybody's an idiot." Oh. I don't like that. I don't mind people phasing out, but it's so prevalent today. You can't get people to pay attention. And then they all attribute it to some disability, you know? "Oh, I'm disabled. I can't concentrate." Maybe you're just not that bright. I don't know. Some of you are sitting there looking at this saying, man, this is a disaster. But you know what? My thrill, literally my joy, is to hear you guys tell me, thank you so much for this video. What you told me to do worked. That's the joy. I don't get as many views as everybody else, but that's all right. My pleasure is getting those compliments from strangers. Not marketers. Hey, I want to advertise on your channel. Make the video shorter. Blah blah blah. I'm not at that point yet. They come, these people. I have people sending me tools. Hey, do a video on this. You know what I'm afraid to say? Like, not afraid, but like a little embarrassed. Like, what if I don't like your tool? I think they presume that because they send it to you free, that you're going to say something nice about it. I was a police officer. And your integrity can be compromised very quickly as a public official. Everybody's looking to give you free food and this and that. But once you enforce the law, you're no good. Once you take that free food, they own you. They own you. Take a free tool, they own you. If you're watching a YouTube channel where a guy has like 500,000 viewers and he's got all the latest tools and everything, be careful. He may not be giving you his true opinion on the tool. He may be giving you the opinion of the manufacturer or the seller. Be careful of that. Can you imagine if somebody invented a wallpaper tool? They'd come to me and say, can you do me a favor? Can you post this on your channel? That's why I don't advertise my wallpaper paste. I'm going to tell you something. If you need wallpaper paste, consider Dynamite 234. Very good product, and it's a no-name. You don't hear about it in most places because the other big supplier advertises more, and you pay more for their product. So, I'm not into the big R exclusively. For those of you who hang paper, you know what I'm talking about. I use it, but I know there's other products on the market that are just as good. And you can make your own wallpaper paste. See the expert, Jim Perotti, for that. Jim Perotti's a veteran installer from the New York metropolitan area, living in New Jersey. Guy's awesome. Awesome. He's a real guru. Second generation paper hanger. Good man. Get those edges. You want to saturate those edges, which consists of paint, primer, and paper. Don't worry about trips. Saturate this thing. Arrest the peeling. Ugh. Gotta clean that. Look at how it gets absorbed into that brown paper. You see the color disappearing? It goes right into that brown paper and it tells it, stop. Stop giving this guy a problem. If you want to be generous, give it 2 coats. But make sure it's white if you give it 1. See? Reminds me of the first winter snow up in New York. You know, when the sun comes up, it sort of starts dissipating and melting a bit. If you don't have this on your truck, you're missing out. And how do you get this off of your hands? Well, ammonia. But if you're in the UK, guess what? They use something else. But somebody educated me from the UK and they said it's the same thing, Spencer. But we use ammonia. Put water first. Add incrementally. With a small enough knife to get in there. Not just to mix it, but to chop out the crumbs when you're done. Gotta be small enough to get in there. That's the limit, 3 inches. Okay, let's get over to that wall quick. It's 5 minutes to work with it. Don't leave more than that in there unless you can help it. Unless you can't help it, I mean. Let me show you the results up close. First coat. "14-inch pool trowel." Swimming pool? Pool trowel. Is it starting to look like a wall to you? I hope so. You can do this. Can you do what I just did? Of course you can. Ask yourself why not if you say, "Oh, I can't do that, Spencer." Why not? Yes, you can. You can do this. I suggest that you do it yourself. You know why? Stop calling people to your house when you could do the job yourself. You don't want strangers in your house. I don't, unless I'm absolutely desperate. But I'm realizing hiring people these days, even if you're paying them a good amount, they're unreliable, they lie, they cheat. I don't like it. So I try to learn everything I can myself. Or I go with a heavy recommendation of someone I trust. Clean it out. You don't want this dry stuff in your mix. It will accelerate the drying time. It will act as a catalyst and it will dry out your new batch of compound. Trust me when I tell you. Second batch. 5-minute mud. You're going to add the powder to the water, not the other way around. Very few people will fast forward through this part. Isn't that interesting? Very few people fast forward. They like this. It's called ASMR. Check it out. Google it. ASMR. Audio sensory something something. All right. Now, let's check this out up close. We've built the wall up with multiple coats. I'm going to give it one last coat of the hot mud. Okay? Because this takes a lot to fill in with ready mix. So I want to fill in any major imperfections like that. And then we'll let that stiffen up for a few hours. And then before we leave for the day, we'll hit it with topping compound, which is this material right here. Okay. Two hands. Okay. Now let me show you. Okay. These are shadows from our chandelier, but that is the pre-topping compound built up finish from our fast or hot mud. You remember how damaged this wall was? Well, not anymore. Now we have multiple coats on here. We're going to let this get really hard. We're going to give this an hour, and then we can either texture it or apply a topping compound. So to start finishing it, this will require 2 coats of a topping compound, but that's how you do it. Okay, any questions, just leave it below. Thanks for watching the video. Okay, so you see that the wall has been restored. Now, where's the wallpaper? Where is the wallpaper here, folks? There it is. It's right underneath the oil-based paint. Primer, I should say. It's underneath it. And my skim coat is over the wallpaper. This is still just newly painted with the oil-based primer. I have to skim coat over it so that it looks like above the cabinets.
There's some processes and some things that are being done.
There's 1 coat of skim coat on there,
Whenever
as you can see when you look closely.
embezzlement.
Okay? Folks, don't go crazy with wallpaper removal, okay? Don't do it. Don't do it. I've been doing this for a long time. I'm here to save you the headaches. I suffered the headaches so that you don't have to. Look, now you got to learn how to skim coat. Don't learn all this information and then call somebody in to skim coat. You got to do it yourself. You want to get a 6-inch taping knife, a 10-inch taping knife, a hawk. Okay? This was a lot of work here. Okay, so we had to build up, you know. You saw the mess that was over here. This was our oil. We tested our oil, and then we tested the mold and mildew. The oil was better. I did an interim video on this issue. Tomorrow I will be priming and painting. Folks, it's better than standing there for... Look, this was a 3-day job, taking down this wallpaper. This was the 5% wallpaper removal you run into as a pro. And you say, sir, ma'am, I have to tell you, the conventional techniques are not working. We have to go to plan B. Plan B is that we have to leave the wallpaper on, making sure, of course, that it's not a wallpaper that cannot be skim coated over. You cannot do this over grass cloth. Got to take it off. You cannot do this over a commercial vinyl. Got to take it off. And then go over it, because if you don't go over it, as you can see, I've gone over it there. I still have to do skimming over here. Then I'm going to call it a day because my arm is, it's overworked. There's only so much you can do, you know? But you see our border there? Do you see the border? But look, you can only see it because you have a saturation mark of curing compound. That you can't feel it. Listen. See? There's no, like, it's smooth because we're learning how to cover over wallpaper. There's no need to always take it down. Now, if it's loose and has bubbles, you must take it down. The rule of thumb is take your wallpaper down. But when it's driving you crazy, and you've exhausted all of the techniques available, then we consider doing this.
As I'm editing this video, I wanted to tell you that if I were to have kept at it, taking the wallpaper down, first thing you should know is that there would have been numerous repairs of wall gouging. That is, cutting and scraping and digging into the wall. Not only that, number 2, is that it would have taken me 3 days. The rate at which I was proceeding told me that I was only able to get a small amount done in 8 hours. This was a 3-day deal, believe it or not. Now, what about your seams showing? Spencer, I did everything you said, but I can still see my seams. Well, your seams have absorbed moisture. They may not have been installed the best, meaning that they were slightly overlapped anyway. You don't know it until you paint them white, how much they were overlapping during the life of the wallpaper. But nevertheless, even if it was a great job, you still have a separation between one sheet and the next, right? Well, guess what? You're going to picture a man shaving his face, right? You're going to shave off the seam. You're going to slice it off, tie it down with new oil, and skim coat over it. And in this video, you will see that I put not only a bed of joint compound over the seam, but I used fiber tape, F-I-B-A tape, to treat it like a sheetrock seam. Oh, that's all I'm doing here is reapplying Kill's Original. And it comes in this can of spray. When you're just doing small bits of putting oil, this is just a very expeditious manner of proceeding. Getting the tray out, rolling it, climbing up the ladder with it. It's not very expedient. A little can, great tool, because now we're winding down here. We don't need the big guns out. We put the tray away, the roller away. It's heavy, it's messy. So I just want to go around, spray touch up. Here we go. We're getting ready. Look at that, everything's covered. We got to get ready to put this job to bed, make it beautiful.
Our window is open. Machine's covered. Plastic is draped from the very top all the way to the bottom. You don't want your dust getting caught in those little nooks and crannies. Okay? And what else? So now we're sealed. Now before we seal the door, we're going to make sure we got everything on this side of the room so that we're not walking through the plastic. But you see how I'm going to seal this door. I'm going to put my plastic up against there. And then anything beyond the immediate area of the door with nooks and crannies I'm covering so that when I take this plastic down and the wind blows the residual dust, this is protected. If you do this, go out of your way for customers, believe it or not, they'll notice. Okay? So let's get going. Now we're completely sealed. But now here's the most important thing. Ventilation. You need oxygen. You will deplete the oxygen in a room if you seal off the air coming into the room. So this is our source of oxygen so that we don't pass out, right? Wow, I should cover this too, right? We'll be using our 3M mask. This is a 6001. Okay. Also, I'll be using fine sanding blocks by 3M. When you're painting this, you want to use a sanding block or sandpaper or a liquid deglosser to make the surface not slippery. You see that on the left of your screen? You see how shiny that is? That's slick. It's like ice slipping on ice. So when you paint it, this paint that you're putting on will slip, slide, causing sagging. Do you see the sagging in the center of your screen? That's because the person who put the paint on put too much and certainly didn't scuff the surface. So you want to degloss it, you want to use less paint, and or you want to scuff the surface with a sanding block.
Remember, you're looking at a wall right now that has wallpaper on it, that has oil-based primer over it, that has joint compound over it. I'm sanding that joint compound right now. In the end, you're going to see the walls look perfectly normal.
Look at that. Look at that beauty. Remember the way the walls used to look? Isn't that beautiful? After I have sanded and my surface is flat, I go over every seam now where the wallpaper has seams, and then I coat it with a layer of joint compound and fiber tape. Okay? And so this is the thinnest of the mesh tapes, fiber, F-I-B-A. And I treat those seams as if they were sheetrock seams, okay? This way they never open up on me. Very thin layer. Of compound, a layer that will dry quickly. Yet with this tape over it, you're never going to see that seam. And I would say that's your only time-consuming aspect of this method, is that all of the seams, and there are many, the wallpaper was only about 21 inches wide. So every 21 inches, I have one of these seams.
What I was attempting to explain in the video there is that this is the most time-consuming aspect of the job, but it is the one that's going to give you perfection. Every 21 inches is a seam. So every 21 inches you have to apply this fiber tape and do your magic with skim coating. Now let me talk to the person who just got discouraged during this time in this video. Oh, Spencer, I can't skim coat. I don't know how to do it. Stop that. That's nonsense. Go out and get yourself a carbon steel 6-inch taping knife. Go out and get yourself a 5-gallon bucket of ready-mix joint compound. Go out and get yourself a 10-inch stainless steel taping knife or carbon steel and a Hawk, H-A-W-K, and a 4-inch taping knife. Dip your 4-inch taping knife into your joint compound, put it on your Hawk, and learn the mechanics. Watch my video, Spencer Colgan, How to Skim Coat, and learn it. Take a day, practice for an hour or two, and learn how to spread compound on a practice wall. Take all of the clothes out of your closet and practice on a closet wall, and make this happen. You can do it. Don't walk into this project and get discouraged. You came this far. Don't hire somebody who's going to do a job just as good as you can do.
So we're going to do it a second coat when it dries. To thin it out, I use mineral spirits so that when I laid out the paint, there was less resistance and it self-leveled a lot more easily when thinned out. And this is the product from Sherwin.
What I'm talking about in the video right now is the crown molding. I used an industrial commercial oil-based gloss finish according to what the customer wanted. And so that's what I'm talking about right now.
Now I'm going to start cutting the ceiling around the penetrations, the lights, the speakers, the fire suppression system. Before I do that, I wet my 4-inch Purdy brush. I wet it so that the bristles are easier to clean, and the initial application of the paint is nice. If you don't caulk around your masking tape, you'll have paint on your floor, especially if you're using a brush. You might get away with it if you're spraying. 3-inch angle sash Purdy brush. Clean off your trim, get all the dust off of it. This is an oil-based white gloss paint. So it's very important that you pull the paint in one direction. Not like this, haphazardly, because that's how it's going to dry. You go up, one direction. And you can see the difference in the layout. Now the paint has the benefit of leveling out after you add mineral spirits, especially. Sink area. Not an easy place to get your finger, right? After you paint this, when do you remove the masking paper? Well, you want best results right away. Pull your masking paper off right away. If you don't, if you wait more than 15 minutes, it starts stiffening up. 25 minutes it starts to dry at the top, and then over an hour the layer of paint on the top is dry, and then going toward the bottom, meaning the top layers of the paint are setting up. And what happens is, if you should paint this like this, right? You see how I'm getting it onto the masking paper? The masking paper is doing its job, right? Well, this starts to dry at the top level, the top layer. Once you pull this off, it tears it because the paint bridges the molding to the paper, forming one. Instead of being the molding and the paper separated at the caulking, you get the molding, the paper, and the paint being all one, so that when you pull your paper, it tears it. So the answer to your question is right away. But Spencer, what if I do 2 coats? Look, you want to be a perfectionist? Get those coats on within the first half hour of after having applied the first coat. So get that second coat in there. You're not compromising the beauty of the job. You don't want to wait hours before you put the second coat on. A lot of people think you have to wait to put a second coat of paint on. And it's what Grandpa used to tell us. Gotta wait. I think they used to wait because they used to like to take breaks. I'm serious. I don't know. You know, you would have to wait if you were pulling the paint off of the first coat. And guess what? That actually happens, particularly with dark color latex paints. And so if you're pulling the color off of your first coat with your second coat, stop and let that dry. And take your masking off and mask again. Oh, I know you're gonna hate me. Spencer, that's crazy. It's crazy. No, it isn't crazy. You can't leave this masking on very long. And if you're using dark colors, you don't want to be putting the second coat on too soon after the first one. And for that circumstance, I would use mask up again. If you're working with an oil-based paint, pulling the tape away from the trim you're masking, or against which you're masking, I should say, will afford you more time. As you know, oil-based paint does not dry, nor does it set up as quickly as latex paint. Certainly acrylic paint. And I have an extender in this paint so that it self-levels beautifully. Now, let me just tell you after I take this away how long I've had this sitting. Always want to be careful that you're not pushing dust from the masking paper onto the surface. So you pull it away and down low. Right? Now, if you find that you failed in keeping the paint off of the floor, that's just crumbs, what you can do is, you would be silly to try to wipe this. Okay? I'm magnifying that. That actually looks like it's part of the trim. But we're painters, we're perfectionists. Here's what you would do, and this is what I would like you to do. After this dries, this is what you do. You take this taping knife, you go right up against there when it's dry and push it right in. It literally will push in like Play-Doh. That's it. Don't try to wipe it now. It's not going to do it.
So we did the ceiling, the crown, the base, and we're doing the walls last. Why is that? The walls needed time to dry. You don't want to be painting and priming over wet walls.
Now we're applying the primer. So let's recap. We try to take the wallpaper down on this wall with water, conventional methods. Took too long. Let the wallpaper and the backing dry on the wall. The bits and pieces. We got most of it down over here, from what I recall. But we left it up everywhere else. This wall had the most damage. I did an interim video showing you oil-based primer versus the mold and mildew primer from Kills, both from Kills. I showed you which one was the best. Now, we're using a sealer. Kills, okay? Very good stuff. I cut the walls at the top
with my nice 4-inch Purdy brush. Okay, and now we're going to roll it on with a 9-inch Purdy 1/2-inch nap. Let me show you this roller. If you want to get a good reputation in the business, spend the money on the materials. You're looking at a quality roller. This is lint-free. Okay, look at that. Very nice stuff here. Don't be coming into somebody's house with, the big box stores in the USA have good, better, and best. You know those 3 crappy rollers that they have in Lowe's and Home Depot?
When you're applying your primer, make sure you put a nice even coat on the entire surface. Remember, you're going over wallpaper. If I were you, if you have the time, I would put 2 nice even coats all over the walls.
Well, I hope you like the finish. We have a flat ceiling paint from Sherwin-Williams on the ceiling, super paint on the crown, an industrial enamel, oil-based, and on the base trim, and on the doorway trim. For the walls, you know that we used an oil-based primer. And then my customer opted for a Home Depot product that had both primer and paint in one. A quality product. But that is it. All in all, the project took 4 days. But what do you think? I'm here to show the do-it-yourselfer you can do this. Thanks for watching my video. I'll see you on the next one, I hope, okay?